Hello, beautiful people. I am excited to be back with you. I am not sure what is happening. The technology is not looking like things are doing exactly what they should be at the moment. And that's kind of out of the ordinary. So we're going to just roll with it because that's the way life goes. We got to roll with the punches. So I am looking forward to making sure that folks are here and can hear me and that the things are doing the things that they need to do in the background. So if you are with me here live, please do drop your city in the chat. I would love to hear from you. I always need to check in to see who's experiencing this with me live. And I always like to remind ourselves that there are folks who are listening on the replay, and I love that for you. I love that for me too. The replay is an amazing resource. If there's a tool that you want to make sure that you share with other people so that they're getting the message that you think is important, which is something I think is the greatest gift that I can ever ask for, is a referral for you to share the work that I'm doing here and that we're doing here at Career Gems for the Journey with others. That is the greatest gift and the highest honor. So I appreciate all of those who are listening on the replay, and I also appreciate you sharing with other people. So I am going to try to step through this in the quickest way possible because there are just so many things that are happening, and I'm trying not to get distracted by all the things that are happening in the ethos. But I came today because there were some transitions that I wanted to make from some of our last lives as we are, navigating the workplace. But I first want to make sure that I acknowledge that the workplace is looking really different for some of us. And I want to make sure that I'm not, it's not lost on me that many of us are navigating workplaces that have changed in the last few months. I have clients who serve in a number of different capacities in a number of different organizations, be them corporate, nonprofit, academia, public service, federal employees, state employees. So I have clients who navigate all of those spaces. And there's some spaces that are feeling business as usual, but there's some spaces that are feeling not business as usual at all. And there is tension and frustration and some fear and trepidation. And I want to make sure that I'm honest about that. And I also want to make sure that as we think about people who are having experiences that are not ours, right? That we can have empathy for people who may be experiencing a completely different workplace environment, be it cultural, be it new leadership in place, be it things that are tied to things that have nothing to do with their job. But because they work in a specific sector or because there's a title that they hold and there's a new perception that is being driven by leaders in government or leaders in industry, that they're having a completely different work experience than they were a year ago. So I want to acknowledge that folks may be navigating and struggling. And I'm not saying maybe, I know for certain they are. I've had conversations with a number of people over the last few weeks as we're talking about the Career and Care Summit. And we're really excited for the summit and we're looking forward to all that it is going to bring. But I'm also very aware and sensitive to the fact that people are using a lot of their time and emotional energy and emotional bandwidth to navigate spaces that is hard. It is difficult. It is real. It is risky for some of them. Lots of people who are in positions of influence and are using their voice and are doing their best to navigate all of these transitions that we're seeing come through in the news and in the media and on social media. And there's just a huge swirl that's happening. And some people are navigating it with just the basic skills that they may have. We all don't have, all the tools to cope oftentimes with some of the things that we have to navigate. And that's really why I continue to do this work and come into these spaces to be able to provide resources at no cost to join on platforms where I believe that it is valuable to make sure that there's a variety of voices and perspectives so that all people feel like they are getting represented, especially the clients that I have the privilege of serving. And I really do sincerely see it as a privilege that my clients entrust me to give them guidance, coaching, and support as they're navigating career. And like I said, those clients sit in corporate America, in nonprofit leadership, in the federal government, in state government. They also lead nonprofit organizations as well as academia. So all of those folks get represented when I get to have the opportunity to be in front of them and also to be in front of you. And I represent all of those interests. So welcome to those who have been riding with me for a while. I see Luz is with us again. So it's just amazing to have you here. It means so much that that people continue to ride with me, and people that actually know me continue to ride with me. So I appreciate that. And welcome to all of you who may be joining me for the first time, and you're walking into this live or joining us on this live and saying, okay, what did I join, right? What am I here for? Someone shared this with me, or this came up in my feed. What do I have to look forward to as we go into into this discussion? So welcome to everyone. I want to make sure that we talk really from the last couple of weeks. We started talking about being misunderstood and being misunderstood in the workplace, and what being misunderstood, we gave some examples of what that may look like or what that may feel like. I told a story about my own experience of being misunderstood and how to navigate that in my own career. So if that one is one that'll be valuable to you and you haven't heard it, please go back, take advantage of that. If you're with me on LinkedIn, we're also available on YouTube, so you can head over to my YouTube channel if you missed that one. And then we talked about how being misunderstood, and being misunderstood happens in how people experience you real time, right? In-person interactions or over virtual meeting interactions. It also can be misunderstood for people who have never engaged or don't know you, but because of what they may have heard or their perceptions or their own bias, they may misunderstand you for those reasons. And how that is not going to be something that you can control. So I wanted to make sure that we said there are things that are in our control, and we're going to make sure that we focus on controlling our controllables. And that, that sounds easier. It's easier said than done. But there are things that are completely out of our control when people are misunderstanding our why behind our choices, our decisions, even our choice of self-expression. There'll be times where people don't understand, literally don't understand. There also will be times where it's clear, but people will choose to misunderstand, because choosing to say, I don't understand or I don't get it, is easier than saying, I disagree. Or it's code for saying, I disagree. I am willing to be a roadblock. I am willing to choose my own perceived ignorance or lack of understanding, and to use that as a tool to distract or to take attention away from, or to force someone to spend more time, more effort, more energy in trying to be understood. And in all that time, there's a risk that they're not really focused on the bigger goal. So that's how being misunderstood can then cause conflict in your workplace. And when we think about conflict in the workplace, oftentimes it is avoided because real conflict can sometimes make others uncomfortable. And discomfort is absolutely a trigger for significant other behaviors in the workplace. Merely being uncomfortable, merely not agreeing or not liking something can cause huge conflicts in the workplace. And those conflicts are often sat at the foot of the person who has been misunderstood. I'm going to say that again. Oftentimes, when conflict is being evaluated or perceived in the workplace, it's the burden that gets placed on the person that is being misunderstood. And I believe that that is wrong. I think that when there is a misunderstanding, the person who is being misunderstood, right, person A in that equation, is not fully responsible for getting person B to understand and work through all of their misinformation, all of their perceived bias, all of their not even understanding the charge and what the person A has been given to be done. So conflict can be productive in a lot of ways, and it can be helpful in a lot of ways if it is navigated under, and we talked about this last week, under this mutual respect and being able to assume positive intent, because there's psychological safety in the place where conflict ensues. And this is going to feel heavy sometimes. It's going to feel uncomfortable. So if if the only option, I should say, is that every work conversation is amicable and it's exciting, or everyone agrees and everyone gets on the same page immediately, and no conflict or resistance or tension is available, that's going to cause a lot of people to shut down in your workplace. That's going to cause your workplace to feel less engaged. It's going to cause your workplace to feel less creative and innovative, certainly, because the best ideas are not ideas that all got a resounding round of applause from the very beginning. Those ideas came from places that were unique and may have been, counterculture even, or maybe they were, absolutely mainstream, but they require you to take a calculated risk. And I think the more we can talk about how conflict can be used in a way that is productive, um, it still requires us to have the emotional intelligence to navigate conflict with our own ego in check. So if we perceive all conflict as problematic, and any conflict or any disagreement or any discourse as something that has to be quashed or stamped out, we will no longer be able to assume that our companies and our organizations will be able to thrive and grow and have a workforce that is representative of the consumer that we're trying to work with, or the world that we're trying to lead in, or the country that we're trying to be the product, the service, the brand for. So I think that it comes up as a story, as an example to me. Many of you will know, I mean, the internet is a buzz with all of the feedback and dialogue that's coming from off of the Super Bowl. Now, I will give you guys all a disclaimer. I'm based out of Philadelphia. I'm from Philadelphia, born and raised. I'm not going to get into Will Smith. I'm not going to sing the Fresh Prince intro, but I'm from Philadelphia, right? And I'm wearing green today, just as a nod, because the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl this past Sunday. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs, beat them heartily. If you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I understand if you're deciding you want to fly under the radar, because it was a tough loss. We are in Philadelphia and we are thrilled and excited that the Eagles team that we saw show up on Sunday was what we all knew was underneath and possible all along, even though there were critics. Even though there were people who said Jalen Hurts was not going to be able to do everything he was capable of for so many reasons. He holds onto the ball too long, or, we think that he should be a better pocket quarterback, you name it, right? So for folks who don't watch sports, and I know there are, we have a wide spectrum of folks who join us. So for folks who don't watch sports or are not interested in football, I'll leave the analogies tied to football alone, and then I'll move into the halftime performance. Lots of people only watch the Super Bowl for halftime, just for the ads. I know some marketers are here today and are joining me. Lots of people just watch the halftime performance. I want to talk about the controversy and conflict that actually showed up in the halftime performance also. So we have this amazing stage, right, where all of America is potentially watching the Super Bowl for different reasons. Some folks may have been watching because Travis Kelce was playing in the game. We know that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have been the exciting part of some of the Kansas City season. And then we also have this stage where we have two quarterbacks who are at the peak of their game. They are both young, capable, ambitious, really talented quarterbacks. Both of them happen to be men who are brown, Black men. So there's this dynamic, which is controversial or potentially, perceived as something that is unique or an anomaly. Then you have this potential of the halftime performance with Kendrick Lamar, who is, by far a hugely, hugely talented, critically acclaimed, brilliant, award-winning, all of the things, drip all the awards for Kendrick Lamar. And then he puts on a halftime performance that is causing such a stir on the internet because there is so many layers of controversy or support for ideas and concepts that he's been an advocate and outspoken about for years. But now you're in a stage and people may be encouraging you to do something different than what is your core competency, what you're good at, what you believe in. And they're encouraging him to be different because now there's a new audience. There's different people who are watching. You're in a different kind of stage. And then Kendrick proceeds to develop and storytell the most detailed, eloquent, symbolic, Easter egg filled halftime performance that I've ever seen. And I've been watching football for a really long time. Now, whatever your feelings are about football or the NFL as a whole, we have to acknowledge that there is a certain American cultural awareness around the Super Bowl that we can't ignore. So I believe that this is an opportunity for us to use this as an example. Healthy, productive conflict and dialogue about what was represented on the field or what was represented on the halftime stage is something that is absolutely necessary. And to have discussions about what we agree with, what we don't agree with, under this umbrella of what is a topic that has really no impact on the lives of most people, right? Very little impact to the Super Bowl performance will come into your day job, will come into your life. However, it is a great example of how conflict is necessary in order to compel us to have productive conversations and to think about culture and problem solving and what's right versus wrong and who has the right to say what. And those examples absolutely transition into the workplace because whoever is around, whoever is loudest, whoever is willing to contribute to these conversations also deserves to have a platform and for their ideas to be shared, but they also have to have mutual respect and show up in a way that's going to be supportive and conducive to the right kinds of conversations that are going to drive us forward about how people get to show up at work, how people get to show up in life, how people get to show up and be fully seen and acknowledged for who they are, what they bring to the table in their full humanity. And I led off by talking about the range of people who I get to serve. And it's just not lost on me that there was such a wide range of perceptions and opinions about the Super Bowl itself, and then about the layers of the performance, who performed, how they showed up, and all of the things that went along with that Super Bowl experience. It has been a whirlwind of discussion. And I encourage us to tap in deeply to thinking critically about what makes sense for us to ingest. And I say that from the perspective of I want to make sure that we think about curating our intake. Understanding that feeling misunderstood and being in spaces where people are choosing to misunderstand you or forcing their opinions upon you can be harsh. It can be harmful. And I want us to think if we can curate our intake and create safe spaces for ourselves, if we can create safe spaces where we're able to be in community with others who are like-minded, but also going to challenge us in a productive way, those are the kind of workplaces that you and I want to be in. And those are the workplaces that will cause us to grow and thrive. So not only is this an example that I believe conflict and being misunderstood or people misconstruing a message is ripe, but then we bring that into our workplace and how we explain or how we storytell about the work that we do or the projects that we're working on, about where our priorities are, is an example of how conflict can come into our workplace and being misunderstood can be damaging. So the reason why we came in the full circle moment here for us is the Career and Care Summit is specifically designed for professional women. And as I think more about the conversations that I've had over the course of the last month and a half, as we've been talking to sponsors related to the Career and Care Summit, this is a moment in time where being in community with people who are like-minded, who you can assume positive intent, and who are navigating from a place of mutual respect, it is more important now that we have these spaces and that we do these things than it's been in my generation. It is more important now. And I had no idea this is going to be the direction that things would be going. But I'm grateful that we have a place and that we're bringing together and communing with the group that we're going to have at the Career and Care Summit on March 15th in Philadelphia at Community College of Philadelphia. I want to invite all of you to head over to gemsforthejourney.org to grab your ticket. We are going to sell out. We are absolutely going to sell out. My team and I are certain of it, and we are thrilled that so many people have already bought in, and we wanted to make sure that we came on here to give you an opportunity to grab your ticket. Head over to gemsforthejourney.org/events, and you can grab your ticket now before they're all sold out. And thinking about curating your intake and thinking about the filter that you want to use to keep things out that are not going to be good for you in this season and keep things in that are going to work for you, that are going to cultivate and curate the best version of yourself, that's where we are. And using the tools that we have at our disposal to grow our own emotional intelligence so that we can navigate the spaces that our career takes us into, and so that we can recognize places that are good for us, that are going to help us to thrive and grow, versus places that are not going to be good for us, that the weeds are going to overpower the garden, and it's time to be rooted in another place. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm most excited about, that I get to do here on a regular basis at Career Gems for the Journey. And I want to make sure that we get to do that together on March 15th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the Community College of Philadelphia. We are excited and we would love to see you there. We appreciate you for riding with us today. I look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, make your journey work for you.